Okay. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Catalyst Energies. My name is Dee. Thank you for joining me. I'm so grateful that we're all here. We're all able to be here. We're all functional. Okay, take two. Now I really need the Palo Santo. Wow. Wow. Can't really control anything, can you? Not anything outside of you, that's for sure. And everything is here for our own benefit. There's nothing here that we can't work with. There's nothing here that isn't meant to help us get to where we're going. So, being frustrated can be very temporary, and we always have the option of directing our energy and our thoughts towards the opportunity of situations rather than how they frustrate us and get us off track. So, this is take two. If you were on the previous version of this, I had to stop and come back because there was just too much going on at this moment. And new situation, new location, new expectations. That is a really, a really good theme and analogy for what's going on collectively right now as well. In some ways, nothing has changed. There is still everything going in the direction that it's been going. But on the other hand, there's been so much disruption, so many expectations not being met on so many levels, right? And a lot of confusion and a lot of just what is going on that it's interesting to see how the microcosm fits into the macrocosm of all of our lives, right? So I thought I'd change it up today for this transmission, daily medicine transmission. It is the 27th of January, and I told you it was going to fly by, and it is almost over. We have a full moon tomorrow in Leo, so right now the moon is still in Cancer. She will move into Leo tonight and this evening. And tomorrow, our full moon will be at 2:15 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and there'll be lots more information about that as we get closer. But I thought I'd start with the transmission, the intuitive transmission itself, and then look at the chart to see how it corresponds today. There's some very interesting transits that are happening that I want to draw our attention to, because not only are they themselves interesting, but they are very much connected in some ways to the lunar cycle as a whole, especially where Venus is at right now, connecting to the new moon position, and also where the full moon is going to be tomorrow in the Sun and Jupiter coming together in that full moon time. So really potent. We talked about the nodes yesterday, squaring Neptune, about how the table is set for when it is time for us to sit at the table and to trust that the meal will be served and we will all sit down with our with the people that we are connected to energetically and spiritually when it is time to do so. And the square to the nodes is a lot of obsession with getting to where we're going, or hanging on for dear life to the tail of the dragon as it provides the momentum moving towards our destiny. So that is certainly going to be something, that square, since Neptune and the nodes, they don't move very quickly in whatever motion they're in. With Neptune, it's in orbit, of course, and so these aspects have been with us for a while, and they'll continue to be, but because they came into an exact square yesterday, that energy is came and activated. It is now on its other end of dissipating as well. So it's not to say that aspect isn't going to be important as we continue to move forward, but the energy and the tension of it will start to release as we move through these times. So again, with the microcosm and the macrocosm, I want to talk about, something that's going on in my own little sphere of reality that really set the tone for today, because it really was a struggle to kind of, figure out what how to transmit this message. And sometimes that is the challenge of being intuitive, because again, we have our perception, but then we also have our interpretation that is conditioned by our own personal cognitive and emotional filters, right? So sometimes when those things are more active, like we talked about yesterday with the reflection and being able to have a calm surface of our own emotional landscape, the waters within us, when they are calm, they are not disturbed by our emotional compulsions, then we get an accurate and clear reflection of what is happening within us and in our subconscious, and our intuitive channel is much more clear. So it's important to be able to calm the waters. And when there's distractions, right, when there are frustrating situations we can't control, when things throw us off of our center, those also serve to disturb the calmness of our emotional internal landscape, and then it's harder to see. And you can even, just with the way things have gone already this morning, you can really feel and see how that has impacted my ability to transmit. And now that things have calmed down, the distractions, I waited for the right time in order to give the message. It's going to come through a lot clearer, I have a feeling. So, with the Cancer moon right now, the Cancer is the home territory of the moon. It is about the containment, the structure that holds us emotionally, that supports us and nurtures us. It's the fourth house in the astrological chart. It is the womb, right, that protects and nurtures us as we grow as a life. And the personality really starts to develop in the fourth house, because the containment of the home, the immediate family, the community that we find ourselves most contained by. And for most people, it is your family of origin, where you grew up. But that doesn't always translate as we get older. So there are other aspects that this relates to, right? National identity, tribal identity, regional identity, the land that we're from, the ancestral lineage, all of those aspects that provide a container or an armor in some ways. And as we see in this transmission, this reading here, we have the Chariot. It's kind of hard to see, but we have the Chariot at the center today, and it's in this reverse position. So I want to talk about preparing our vessel, and how we have to have the courage in some ways to look beyond the surface. And I'm going through this process right now of renovating this house that we just moved into. And there are these rooms in the back, the master bedroom and a small den that's meant to be eventually my office. And we were just on the impression that we were going to recarpet it and everything was good. And then as we started to spend time in those spaces, we realized that there are some things that need to be addressed. And so, there's a little bit of a issue with the floor. It doesn't feel like there's a lot of support in this corner of the floor. So we pull it up, and oh my God, there's so many more problems under the surface than what we had originally anticipated or even knew about. And it was because we found ourselves in a position where we had to pull up the surface. And when we did that, we saw exactly what was happening underneath the surface, which was way worse than we had known or anticipated. And we would have never known had we not taken the initiative to pull up the surface of the floor and see that, that the beams that are supporting the subfloor are completely rotting out. And we see where the water, now this is where it gets interesting, the water damage that has happened as a result of no proper drainage around the house, no gutter system. And these are all things we did identify already. And I swear, I'm not just like complaining about my situation. This is very relevant to the energy right now, because where we are at right now is that we are starting to realize that the lattice work, right? The foundation of the containment system that holds us emotionally is maybe more damaged than we had previously realized. Okay. And it's not until you start pulling back the layers that you have the, wherewithal or the courage or the ethic in some ways to pull back and look at it because you want to fix it. And you're like, wow, this is a lot worse than I thought. This is what's happening right now, right? That it's being pulled back and we're seeing all of the leaks and we're seeing all of the structural integrity of what has been emotionally and collectively holding us for so long is not as, structurally sound as maybe we had thought. And when we talk about Cancer and the fourth house, national identity is a big part of this. And it doesn't have to be strictly that, but it is about like I said, the containment that holds us, right? Like I said, immediate family of origin, our tribal identity, our regional identity, and in a lot of cases, our national identity. And so as a nation, for instance, we can talk about it in that way. We are pulling back the surface layers and this has been happening now for a long time, but it's now starting to be made available to those who haven't really intentionally pulled back any of these layers. You move into a new house, right? We have a new administration, right? We come into this new decade, right? 2021. We come into all of this new potential, and it's not to say that there is plenty of potential here, and there is wealth. There's a lot of wealth and material success to come, as you see in this reading here. But it is projected out. And what we are dealing with right now is that we went into the under spaces, right? We went the priestess reversed, right? We went deeper into the subconscious. We went under the surface into the darkness. And maybe against our will in some ways without even realizing we were doing it. And now we're seeing the cracks. Now we're seeing how somebody didn't even put this together properly. It was a complete DIY system. And this is very literal. The floor, the support, the subfloor in these rooms is not even up to code. Somebody just slapped it together because they wanted to build an addition. And in the meantime, it's rotting out right from under them. And so we need to prepare our vessel if we are going to start building anything that we actually want on top of it, right? So in this instance, we've pulled it all out. We have to actually put all new lumber in. We have to build a whole new subfloor. We can't even think about putting carpet on top of this, let alone building an office, a master bedroom, all of this stuff until we deal with this. Another aspect of this is the drainage system, right? Now, Cancer is water. The moon, it represents our water. Cancer is the containment, the armor. If that is not sound, there is a barrier here that is not there that needs to be there. So just as much as Cancer keeps things in, right, contains us, is armor, it also keeps out. It is boundaries. And if there is a compromised set of boundaries there, then we are just going to allow anything to seep in. And this is a really important message that has come through about this. And at the heart of this today, as we go through the actual cards here, we will see that the armor is compromised, that there are cracks in this armor that we did not see before. And more people are starting to come to realize that maybe have been completely, just not even aware that was happening. And it's because with this high priestess, as you see here, it's because we went into these spaces, maybe not even by choice. And now the moon is here wanting to find this containment, right? This safety, security. And we're realizing, it's not structurally sound. What are we going to do about it? So what are we going to do about it? Well, first, let's talk about how we got here. So yeah, the high priestess, the moon, this is number 2. This is the void. This is the space that everything is created within. And there's a weakness and there's a fear of life when it's reversed like this. When it's upright, there is still fear, right? You're going into the deep wisdom, intuition, the subconscious. This is all the space within in which to create. And so when it is reversed like this, there is weakness. I mean, and there's a fear. We're going into these spaces and we do not like it. Changing moods, doubts. Sometimes this is about ignoring reality, right? This is about that space that had been seeping water in and somebody was just ignoring it and ignoring it and ignoring it and hoping that it would go away. And a feeling of darkness, a feeling of very significant darkness, because it's one thing to go into the darkness intentionally and to at least face the fear of going into that space. It's another thing to do it and not be prepared for it, and unable to live with our feelings, right? Unable to even touch our feelings. These are all the aspects of the priestess being reversed. Now, when we talk about the astrology, this will come back up as well, because there is a T-square today with Pluto and the moon. So Pluto and the moon are in an opposition today. The moon is in Cancer, Pluto is in Capricorn. They are opposed to each other. And then they are both each squaring Black Moon Lilith in late Aries. Okay, so this is called a T-square. So usually the planet or position that is in square to the two opposing points is the arbiter, and we're going to talk about what that means in a little bit. But again, Black Moon Lilith right here, the void that we don't even realize is there, the instinctual will to survive, the animal instinct. So the moon is what the priestess represents. And so in a reversal, it's even darker than that. It is this instinctual animal survival mode that we don't even realize. And we can't keep holding things if our structural integrity to hold them is not there, right? And that is what we are addressing right now. So coming into the moment, I think that we've just been leaking all over the place, and collectively we're realizing this. So, and that is what this is. Here's the Chariot, number 7. This is Cancer. You can see the armor here, holding this spinning disc. There's movement. Now, when it's reversed again like this, we could be insensitive, right? Because Cancer is about the sensitivity of water and our feelings, and the armor allows us to be vulnerable on the inside because there's something protecting us. And so we could have too much armor in this situation, and reconciling the controversial powers inside rather than controlling and suppressing them. That's the other thing about Cancer, is that there's not full vulnerability like there is with Pisces, for instance, or even Scorpio. There is armor here. And we don't want to confuse that armor with our personality, but this really is about the fact that that armor is compromised. There are cracks in that armor. There are cracks in that containment system. There are leaks that are happening that we need to really address right now. And we would have never seen them if we hadn't gone deeper into what's under the surface as a result of maybe facing that fear, right? Pulling back in order to make some change, and then realizing it's a lot worse than we thought. Maybe something is pulling it back for us, with the High Priestess, being kind of thrust into that place of that darkness. So I'm going to take a sip here. 1 second. as you can imagine, if there is water damage under the house in the foundation, there is mold growing. And I am starting to get the respiratory impact of that by sleeping here. So if there seems to be some congestion and some just challenge in my voice, that's why I can definitely feel that as well. And so and it's interesting too, right? Respiratory issues in the lungs, that's grief. It's grief when it comes to Chinese medicine. The lungs hold the grief, right? And so you start having a compromised immune system because of stagnant water being trapped in places, growing mold. So many interesting connections here. But there needs to be a barrier that keeps the moisture out of where it needs to be kept out of, and there needs to be containment and to allow the emotional part of us to stay vulnerable and safe and clear and clean at the same time. So where is our attention meant to be right now? Well, this is the Four of Forces, and it's spring and autumn. So here's a dichotomy here of spring and autumn. And it's time to lay the groundwork. In springtime, we're really preparing the soil. We're tilling the soil. Right now is, in terms of the seasons here in the Pacific Northwest, or I'm not there anymore. I can't believe I just said that. In Pennsylvania, where I'm at, right? Rural Pennsylvania, the eastern woodlands in the northern hemisphere. Let's put it that way. It's still wintertime. So it's kind of hard to think about spring, but what I will say is energetically, our attention is on this laying the groundwork, and this is a very active and creative period. And so it's important to take action, which is what we're doing in the house, right? We're actually pulling everything up. We're cleaning it all out. We're getting new lumber. We're preparing to put in a new foundation, right? It's about whatever that creative project is, whatever that action is that you need to do. Now is the time to start doing it. And this is where our attention, our conscious awareness is meant to be focused right now, is that it's time to prepare the soil, and it's time to do whatever creative action you need to do to prepare your vessel, whatever that is. So if it's getting your body into better shape, if it is getting creative projects off the ground or putting more energy into them, if it means putting more work into your business, if it means putting more work into your family dynamic, whatever it is, creative, action-oriented, but it really has more to do with our attention now being focused on preparing the groundwork for the growth. And that is about preparing the vessel right now. And part of that, again, is realizing where we need to put some extra work to get things where they need to be, right? So the ground maybe needs some extra tilling. Maybe we need to, set up some irrigation. Maybe we need to, condition the soil more. Maybe there is, maybe we need to cut some trees back so there's more sunlight. Whatever it is we need to do to work on preparing the vessel. This is at the top of our awareness right now. And the moon coming into Leo today and having it full in Leo tomorrow is going to really have us emotionally feeling very much connected to our heart space and the energy that moves through us and our sovereign nature and fully expressing ourselves. And we can't do that until we deal with the Cancer energy that comes before it, which is this containment system. Now, again, the initiation in the Count Saint Germain. This is the third day in a row. Now it has moved positions into our subconscious, which suggests to me that it's not necessarily getting repressed. In fact, the very opposite, if we look at the peacock that came out as the guidance, it's more about letting this root us energetically, letting this initiation process into the higher version of ourselves be our anchor. Okay. And to realize now that we have a major release into this higher version of what we are doing, right? And so this can be our emotional anchor and our subconscious energetic anchor, this initiation process, while our attention is focused on laying the groundwork, preparing the vessel, preparing the soil for growth. Okay. Because where this is headed is really, this is a very positive outcome here. It is wealth. It's the 10 of discs, security, completion of success, right? There is success with this project, whatever this is for you, laying the groundwork, patching the holes, maybe like just creating a whole new, containment system in general. And the richest potentials unfold. Wealth. You have to make investments into gathering wealth, don't we? And part of that, again, is addressing this Cancer energy right now. It is facing out. Here, I'll turn it this way so you can see it. It's facing out towards the out towards the future, right? In the direction of what's to come. So it's not going to be really right here, right now, right? It's going to take some time before we really gather in everything, just like any growing cycle, right? You don't get the wealth and security of all of your cultivation and work until it's over. So you have to keep that in mind too. And if you're expecting immediate gratification, then again, this goes back to the patience aspect that we talked about yesterday, that we have everything we need with the sun coming out and bringing light to the darkness, giving energy and heat and light and everything that we need to sustain us, and everything on this planet is here. But if we don't have any patience, then we stand to really deceive ourselves when it comes to the judgment that is coming forward with the eon, the changing of the eon, the crossing over into a new age. And we don't want to deceive ourselves, and we certainly don't want to miss out on the fullness of that transition by not being patient. And again, this is coming around the same basic message today, that there is wealth and security and material abundance and the richest potentials unfold. But wealth requires an investment on some level, either resources or our time or sweat equity. And in this case, it is going to be about making sure that that lattice work of our what holds us and allows us to be who we are is really taken care of. And that's where this Four of Forces, in terms of our attention, needs to be put, is preparing, laying the groundwork, preparing the ground and the soil for this growth. Okay. Now, some guidance that's come through, of course, is our good friend, the Lookout, number 17. It's really about being aware and making a backup plan and knowing that the battle is raging right under us, and being willing to see out ahead. And again, this really comes back to this wealth, this 10 of discs, way out into the future. We have to be able to see out past what is like on fire right under us right now. We have to be able to see the potential outcome. We have to see where we can head. And this will give us, I think, the motivation to really start laying the groundwork and to prepare the soil for the growth. And on top of that, we have the Wolverine. You're a lot tougher than you think, right? If you're in that crow's nest as the Lookout, as this ship is burning underneath you, you need some toughness and some courage, and some, just pushing forward in some ways, and the ability to hold the line in some ways while you are looking for, the potentials out there while everything is burning up underneath you. You need to be tough. And this is just saying that you are tougher than you're a lot tougher than you think you are. And so if you're struggling with how you are going to make these repairs, right? How are you going to patch up this lattice work? How are you going to patch up this containment system that holds all of us? If you're struggling with that, and if you are much more wrapped up in the burning ship underneath you, this is to give you the encouragement that you are tougher than you think, and to to make sure that you can, stand your ground. That's the thing about a wolverine. If you've ever seen them in action, they will chase off the biggest predators in order to get to scavenge their meal to a certain extent. But they are really tough and they hold their ground very strongly. They do not back down from anything. And this, with the lookout, right now is not a time to back down. It's a time to be smart. It's a time to be aware. You don't want to just totally you don't want to just be delusional about what's happening. But at the same time, you don't want to allow this process to scare you out of standing your ground and this is your ground that you're tilling, your ground that you are bringing, up to code, whatever that means for you. This is yours, and provides your wealth. You have to make the investment, and you have to stand your ground and have some courage to look out ahead of what is falling apart, right? Otherwise, you'll just get so discouraged that you'll just be like, fuck it, right? If we got discouraged about what we found under the subfloor, where would that lead us? Nowhere. We just have a big hole in that room now and just leave it there for it to rot away. And that's not going to lead to any wealth or resources in the future. We have to make the investment, okay? Now, when it comes to initiation, first I want to show you the two worlds. It's reversed. So the two of scrolls. You can see this person here. Inside their cabin, there's some gold coins on the table. There's a loom. There's a fire in the hearth, right? And they're facing inward. And outside, there's a sanctuary. Their Tibetan prayer flags is the mountain shrine. It represents the difference between how we demarcate our personal and financial material world and then the spiritual aspect. You can also see this as the two worlds split, literally between the 3D and the 5D, if you want to look at it that way. So when it's reversed like this is a really a huge release. We no longer have to, that world no longer is driving us. And this is where our anchor can be with the initiation in Count Saint Germain, letting go of all of the low vibe stuff. This is showing us that we have anchored into that and we've released it now. It's really about acting on our highest ideals and convictions. It's not about being afraid of losing or putting any of this at risk, right? Our spiritual reality is where we draw our power now, and it's not about the physical material necessarily. And we design our future and manifest through it, okay? It's not something that we react to necessarily if you want to be a co-creator. But that requires that you are... you're letting the soul drive you in your life as opposed to the material concerns, okay? And this is just another piece to reinforce that we can anchor in this initiation process that the Count Saint Germain represents, right? The violet flame, the higher self, and that we are letting go of that which does not serve us anymore, and we're letting the divine soul be the guide through this process. Now, we talked about being, yesterday, kind of setting back, being a shapeshifter, adapting, camouflage. Now, this is going to seem a little bit counterintuitive, but really, if you think about it, let yourself stand out and be noticed. This is the peacock. Let yourself stand out and be noticed as the initiate, as the person whose divine soul is doing the driving, as the individual who has let go of all of these material concerns and is not allowing them. Now, this is very interesting because the peacock is very much related to Venus. Okay? And where's Venus today? Now, Venus is about the material world. That's something to consider. But where's Venus today? Venus today is at the degree of the new moon. We're still in that same lunar cycle, the woman entering a convent, right? This two world split. This woman is focused either on her material world and resources and making money, or the shrine, right? The spiritual realm, the transcendent realm. Venus today, specifically before meeting Pluto tomorrow, is going to remind us in a very material way, right, through our own senses and what we value, when it comes to our commitment to this transcendent goal. So allow yourself to stand out and be noticed as a spiritual warrior, as a person who is allowing their divine essence to be the one driving them. And if we are able to anchor ourselves into this, then we will be able to make the repairs on that vessel. We will be able to see where the structural integrity is not where it needs to be, and then start laying the groundwork for our own life in order to grow something new. We're not necessarily waiting for anybody to do this for us. We are doing it ourselves, right? And the more that we do that, it makes an actual impact on the reality that we see outside of us. The more that we stay in this passive victim role, waiting for something else to change to give us a sense of security in this world, we're going to see instances, and we are going to interact with instances where we are victims, right? And so we are collectively pulling back that subfloor and being like, oh God, it is a disaster down here. We need to do something about it. And this is the most light that has ever been, right? This is, as much as it's a pain in the ass and you're like, wow, that's a lot more work than I anticipated. Can we even do this? The reality is that the hardest work has already happened, which is pulling everything back and being like, oh, look at what we actually are working with right now. That is a good thing. It's a good thing we pulled up that floor and saw what is happening down there so we can actually make informed decisions. Just like with the lookout, everything's burning up under him, but at least this lookout is able to see where to go next. And we are a lot tougher than we think. It's important to stand our ground and anchor ourselves into the initiation, into this higher version of ourselves, okay? Now, I've been talking a while, so let's check in here with the chat. Yes, happy hump day, full moon eve. Yes, definitely, Meg. It is hump day and full moon eve. Then we'll be talking about the full moon soon. But I want to talk about too the astrology. I just want to show it to you real quick. All right, let's see here. Oh, let me fix this. There we go. All right, so I wanted to show you a couple things today. So first of all, like I said, this T-square between the moon in Cancer, Black Moon Lilith, and Pluto being exact today. The thing about the moon is that it doesn't want to have to fix. It just wants the Cancer energy to be, it's not worried about necessarily the containment. It's not trying to fix it or anything. It's just existing within it and is developing as a result of what's already there. And so the thing about Pluto is that transformative process is initially very destructive, and Pluto's moved into a new degree now, and it's going to really test our ability to actually see the underlying current that runs through all life and be able to transform through that, as opposed to, it's already done the damage in terms of all of the cultural traditions and aspects that everything has been built on. That is being pulled away. It has been pulled away for weeks. And now that we have moved past some major points of demarcation, mainly the inauguration in the United States, now we are moving into a point where we have to start transforming as a result of our ability to connect with the underlying energy that moves through everything. And just like the foundation of the house, right? We have to start seeing what's actually going on under the surface and be able to connect to that flow and transform through that. Well, the moon today in this opposition to Pluto is just like, well, I want to be comfortable. I want to be comfortable. I want all of the aspects that come along with comfortability. I want to sit in my luxurious library and read books and wax poetic, and not have to actually transform into anything. The thing is, this T-square with Lilith right now, in late Aries, it's a warning. And so this T-square, when you have this part, so you can see there's the opposition and then each part is square. This point is the arbiter, right? This is where we can focus in order to release the tension here, or to at least find the balance point between the two, which is the warning here with Black Moon Lilith, that part of us that's instinctual, is that we have to let go. We have to let go. We can't hold it all, especially if there is a compromised structural integrity. We can't just keep piling shit up on top of it, and we certainly can't just ignore it either. But if we keep trying to hold more and hold more and hold more, we eventually have to start juggling, and that's not a terrible skill. But if we're talking about survival right now, that is not a sustainable process. You can't just juggle forever. You will eventually drop things. And so we have to let go of some things in order to find this balance point here, because Pluto is saying that you just have to get in. We just have to transform by getting into the flow, to understand the underlying current, just like pulling back the foundation. We don't understand how all of everything is happening unless we pull back the surface and see where all of the gaps are. Okay. And then we see how things are actually flowing. And this transformative process, when Venus meets Pluto tomorrow at this point, this is going to become very real and very material as well. And we will be able to sense it very strongly. And with Venus in Capricorn, she realizes that it's all about her integrity as the divine feminine, right? To hold this resonance as well. And so there's a lot of power and sensuality when these two come together, and brings our attention to the underlying current of feeling and energy that is moving through all of us and our society as well. But we can't just keep piling shit on, right? We have to, and that's the thing about Lilith. If we want to actually survive, we have to be mindful of this, and we can't just keep doing that. We have to actually maybe put some things down until we are ready to fully hold them, right? You can't just like put the carpet and then put the furniture and then do everything else without actually addressing what is under the surface. So this T-square today is going to allow us to see this and to find a way to release the tension here with all of this, okay? We can't just keep stuffing ourselves full of intellectual aspects and expect that the container will hold us if we know that there are gaps and there is rotting under the surface. And believe me, we are starting to see that collectively right now, okay? And there's, what can I say? What can I say? All right. This full moon's going to be amazing. And it's going to be very, very powerful, in terms of seeing things for what they are. And I'll talk more about that later. And then the other aspect that I want to bring up, I think that was the big one, really, is this T-square today. And then Venus being at the degree of the new moon, bringing our awareness in a very material way. What is it that we committed to? What intention did we set about finding that transcendent security when it has, when we have to strip away everything that allows us to feel secure as a society. We still are committing ourselves to this process. And Pluto is really going to be on the front end of this. in the next day or so, especially with this full moon being at the same time. So I know this is much more about the intuitive message today than the astrology. I'll talk way more about the astrology with the full moon, and give you a sense of all of those aspects as well, with the moon moving into Leo, because it's going to trine Chiron, and it's going to, obviously oppose the moon, oppose Jupiter. It's going to square Uranus and eventually square Mars. So again, there's just all the fixed energy squares is making life really interesting. That's for sure. So thank you so much for sticking by and being here for this transmission. I hope you are able to find the leaks and the gaps in your own containment system and address them. Remember that you have everything that you need to do that, that you are tougher than you think, that you are able to see out into the future in some ways and be able to see that there is real wealth and a fulfillment of a cycle of growth that is coming, but it absolutely requires us right now to address the gaps in the armor and the gaps in the containment system. And that means having the courage and the ability to look even deeper under the surface. And that's the priestess that's really hard. It's a very scary place, but maybe it's not as scary as you think. Right? Once you do the work of pulling it back and assessing, you're like, oh, this really sucks. It's not what I anticipated, but now I know what I'm dealing with. And we're about to be having this on a collective level. And when Mercury goes retrograde on the 30th, like I said, that's going to be real eye-opener for some people that are not ready for a very serious review of what future they want to be part of. Because that's where we're going to get a lot of information and knowledge about what revolution is really happening. So if you're interested in a reading, joining us on Facebook, joining us on Telegram, all of that information is in the description box below. You can book from the website www.catalystenergies.net. And please subscribe, like this channel, or like this video, hit the notifications so you know when I go live. And I'm also on Odyssey if you want to support different tech. I won't be live there. They don't have a streaming platform necessarily, but these videos get uploaded to there, and I'd like to start putting exclusive content on there if possible. And when you subscribe and you like, that helps the algorithm push this out to more people, so that more people can access this information and that we can grow as a community. And I love you guys so much. Thank you so much for being part of this, and I will see you on tomorrow's transmission. Bye.